The deep state is engineering a civil war in America. Their goal is to topple not only the Trump presidency, but to install a police state that will stifle any and all freedoms we plebeians cherish.
All signs are pointing to a summer of rage that could see nationwide anti-Trump protests boil over into full-blown, violent riots. The deep state, the Democratic Party, establishment Republican insiders, and the mainstream media are all hysterically pushing the notion that Trump is illegitimate, that impeachment proceedings are inevitable, that Trump committed a crime by blocking Comey's FBI investigation, despite the fact that Comey admitted under oath that no FBI investigations have ever been blocked.
A situation where we were told to stop something for a political reason, that would be a very big deal. It's not happened in my experience.
But facts don't matter. Narrative matters. And the narrative is clearly to manufacture a constitutional crisis followed by a coup d'etat. This will radicalize the violent alt-left to engage in massive domestic disorder, emboldened by the belief that they are bravely resisting an actual tyrant.
The left badly wants to remove Donald Trump from office, not with votes in the next presidential election, as you typically see in working democracies, but they want to remove him right now, today. Indeed, the left has grown so impatient, much more than ever, that it is now unable to acknowledge the basic legitimacy of any government act they disagree with. Every executive order is a new opportunity to demand massive resistance to the law itself.
When could the flashpoint take place? The New York Times reports, quote, liberals are planning a series of nationwide protests on July the 2nd known as impeachment marches to increase the pressure. In preparation for this, leftists are attending summer resistance camps generously bankrolled by the DNC. Is this the date when the Soros-controlled agitators will be activated to cause mayhem?
Now, beneath all of this, which is it's the monster under the bed, it's the threat of violence. At this stage, only the fringes are calling for that, but the rest of us know it's there. We can feel it. Sometimes, especially recently, we can see it. And that is the end or the beginning of it. Violence is what separates politics from war. It's the point where hurt feelings become dead bodies, the point at which countries become ungovernable.
Rally organizers have made it clear they literally think Trump is a dictator and are staging this nationwide event to, quote, get him out now. Another militant leftist group, BAM, claim they're fighting a fascist movement and that, quote, Trump must go by any means necessary. This is what they're going into schools and telling young people.
What is your policy on immigration? Do you believe we should just open it up entirely and let everyone in, just let them walk through?
Yep.
Yeah.
They literally claim, quote, the future existence of humankind is at risk if Trump stays in power. This is how unhinged these lunatics are. They want to, quote, shut down entire cities, to, quote, drive Trump out of power, to overthrow him. They openly denounce, quote, liberal tactics of electoral engagement. This group has previously been discussed by the FBI in the context of alleged links to terrorist organizations. At a rally in Sacramento last year, 10 people were hospitalized with stab wounds as a result of violence initiated by members of BAM. These are the same people who were involved in the Berkeley riots and the riots in airports over the travel ban. Imagine Berkeley, but nationwide in dozens of major cities, all on the same day. Imagine the chaos. Demonstrations are also set to take place in over 90 cities on June the 3rd to protest against Russian interference in the US election, for which there's no evidence whatsoever other than a relentless stream of hysteria. As Tucker Carlson exposed, prominent leftists are also refusing to condemn violence when asked.
Endorsing violence that's the line, and she crossed it.
Right. Well, I don't know if we'd have our current president if that was the line. She has a right to say what she thinks.
Is that a legitimate tactic to smash windows?
That's not an effective tactic.
Is it legitimate, morally legitimate?
That's up to the people who organize it.
So it's okay. There are times when using violence in America.
I've never used violence. We've never advocated violence.
I'm asking you a philosophical question, which you're capable of answering.
I can't answer every question when violence is appropriate or not.
Every time leftists rioted and violently attacked Trump supporters both before and after the election, the media labeled it a demonstration. By legitimizing destructive chaos as a valid form of protest, the anti-Trump establishment media is legitimizing total anarchy. they're encouraging it. Maxine Waters, the leading voice for the impeachment of Donald Trump,
Impeach, 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 impeachment, impeachment, impeachment.
is also legitimizing violent riots. She called the 1992 LA riots an insurrection, a rightful demand for justice. More than 50 people killed, over $1 billion in property damage. White people being targeted and murdered by rioters.
Because of his race, Denny was pulled from his truck and smashed in the head with a cinder block until he sustained brain damage. It was a hate crime if there ever was one. It all happened on videotape. A helicopter caught it, and it happened in Maxine Waters' city. But she did not denounce the attack. On the contrary, she all but endorsed the attack.
Here's the situation from South Central. Drivers of automobiles and trucks that enter this area can expect to, oh, look at that. Terrible. And there's no police presence down here. They will not enter the area.
Is it any coincidence that Waters is in the news every single day calling for more insurrection? Is it any coincidence that we see the same violent race baiting being whipped up daily by the mainstream media? Police departments across the country are making large-scale purchases of plated body armor, pepper spray, batons, and smoke grenades. Take Denver. Every single year since 2012, spending on riot gear has increased. Manufacturers of riot control products have also reported a huge surge in demand for water cannons to, quote, handle large crowds and demonstrations. Authorities are clearly preparing for potential disorder. People in major cities like LA think riots are likelier than at any time since the LA riots. Although violent disorder is a speciality of the left, Trump supporters could also take to the streets if they believe a coup is taking place, and the blame lies firmly at the feet of the media and the deep state. They're contriving the fake news narrative that Trump is an illegitimate tyrant. They're emboldening extremist militant groups who have already used violence to shut down cities and free speech events. They've set the wheels in motion for a massive nationwide confrontation, a summer of rage.
The AstroTurf outrage the left creates is nothing more than a Soros-funded coup attempt. Unfortunately, Soros has many allies within the US government itself. Trump's unwillingness to purge the deep state from his own government is a disastrous mistake.
History is repeating itself. What we're seeing in Washington is a repetition of the deep state coup which removed President Richard Nixon from office in 1974. And the parallels are eerie. Nixon ended the war in Vietnam on a faster track than the Pentagon wanted. He reached arms limitation agreement with the Soviets, and he opened the door to China. He deeply offended the deep state because they favored war. We now know that the Pentagon had infiltrated the Nixon White House and was spying on the president, that a yeoman named Radford was going through desks, including Henry Kissinger's desk and briefcase, and copying documents, top secret foreign policy documents, and sending them to the Pentagon. We know that the Watergate burglary team had been infiltrated by the CIA, and that at least 2 members, and perhaps 3, were still on the agency payroll, reporting everything going on back to their case officers. We know that Archibald Cox and Leon Jaworski, the Watergate special prosecutors, were meeting illegally with Judge John Sirica. We also know that Sirica, in the Watergate burglars trial, was already in touch with the appeals court, ensuring that the burglars would have no appeal. Richard Nixon was brought down. Now the parallels. Donald Trump, like Nixon, was a man of peace, is a man of peace, and he favors peace with the Russians. And therefore, we have had extraordinary events in the last 7 days. 7 days in May, if you will. First, there was the phony New York Times story telling us that the president had blurted out classified information when he told the Russian foreign minister and ambassador that he was concerned about the ISIS planning technology that would turn laptops into bombs, and they would be smuggled on planes. The fact that this information had appeared in dozens of newspapers, including the New York Times, seemed to make no difference to those seeking to smear the president. Then we learned breathlessly from the New York Times that the president had been in a conversation allegedly with FBI Director Comey and had, according to Mr. Comey's memo, which none of us have seen and is not authenticated in any way, that Mr. Comey claimed the president tried to interfere with his investigation into alleged Russian collusion, and specifically into General Michael Flynn. This, despite the fact that the FBI director, the acting director, says there is no evidence of interference with the investigation by President Trump. Now we learn from Judge Andrew Napolitano that Mr. Comey was directly involved in essentially commissioning the fake dossier by a British intelligence agent claiming falsely that Donald Trump dallied with prostitutes and watched them urinate on a bed that had supposedly been inhabited by Barack and Michelle Obama when they visited Moscow. We now know this to be a total fabrication. Today, shockingly, we learn that Mr. Comey has an agent out promulgating this myth that he was always uncomfortable with the president, that in a White House meeting he sought to blend into the curtains and avoid shaking the president's hands. Folks, we have here an exact duplicate of the deep state coup that took down Richard Nixon and now seeks to take down Donald Trump. Why? Because Donald Trump is a man of peace, because he prefers negotiation and détente with the Russians over thermonuclear war over Syria. This is the most serious threat that the country faces today. And as we will discuss later in the program, the attempts for the president to survive are hampered by the fact that he has peopled an administration that is completely staffed with quislings, with people who did not support his candidacy, who do not support his agenda and are not committed to his presidency. He is hampered by a universally hostile mainstream media, but he is particularly hampered by a concerted effort financed by George Soros, authorized by the federal government due to an attachment to the defense authorization in 2016 to silence the alternative media that seeks to defend our president. Yes, InfoWars, Breitbart, The Daily Caller, Stone Cold Truth, Town Hall, and so many others, like our friend Mike Cernovich, find themselves being censored through highly technical techniques that limit our reach to you. In other words, they seek to strip away the voices that would defend a President Trump. We are in the fight for our lives.
President Trump's choices are simple. Either he purges the deep state completely from the U.S. government, or he will be destroyed by them, and America will be destroyed with him.